All right, y'all. It's the time of the day that you've been waiting for. It is the one show on air that will take you from the boardroom to the bedroom, from politics to the pulpit, and everything in between with your favorite friends. You are about to join the crew for Fresh Fire as we do what we do all together. Tune in.
Welcome to the crew, everybody. We are back again.
Yes, we are.
And we want to welcome everybody. If you're watching us on the various platforms, or if you're listening to us on WHOV 88.1, we are formerly the Pastor Study. But we are now the crew because we can really talk like we want to talk. Say,
there you go.
Say what we want to say. So let me do the introductions real quick. We got all the way on the end there. Formerly known as Bishop Ray Johnson. We know him as Ray Ray.
Ray is back in the building once again. Ray. Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, Ray Ray?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
You good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, man.
I'm good.
We have...
Depends on when the show gets started. I can't be responsible for what I might say. We'll see what happens.
Oh, it's like that?
It's like that.
Okay, all right.
Lies.
We have Alvian Lyons, relationship expert, and she's still that on the crew.
Look, I'm here to do what I do. You know.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling real like God is good today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know we are not the Pastor Study anymore, but today was just one of those days where you just realize that it's really good. It could be real different. Yeah.
It's good.
Oh, yeah, it could be different.
Yeah.
Gratitude.
Yes.
Okay. And there's not enough of that going around. Ooh. That's what people need to catch is some gratitude. You know? Maligradecito, all these ungrateful folk running around.
Well, sometimes they need to catch some hands too. But gratitude's good. Sometimes they need to catch some hands, but gratitude's good. Gratitude's good.
We just want you to know, man.
I'm just saying.
What we saying is you kind of violent, man, to be a couple of attorney, man.
He just means that the Bible says the kingdom suffereth violence and the violent take it by force. Okay?
Hey.
Like laying hands, Speaking of which,
this meant the laying on of hands.
Formerly, he is still Commonwealth attorney.
I am.
But in here, he just Tiny Tom. What's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm good. Can I tell you something?
Yes,
God has
tell
been
us.
dealing with me concerning distractions.
Oh.
When you have an assignment, there's always going to be a distraction.
Guaranteed.
Yes.
And so he's teaching me how to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Distractions come, good and bad. And distractions come from different places where
they wear Steeler hats and everything.
They wear all kinds of things. They sit in the pulpit and all, preach the word and everything. That's what they do. That's what they do now. Wow. That's what they do.
They had up radio shows. They do all that.
I'm just
like, to move you out the center.
Yeah. But you ask. So he's teaching me how to be focused and stick to the assignment and not get caught up in the distractors.
I know.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, Tom. That's fresh revelation.
Yeah.
Isn't it though? That's that rhema.
We have Delegate Marcia Price on her day job.
On her day job.
But in here, she's from the Southeast.
That's right.
So that's Southeast Cedar, y'all. Y'all know how it is.
She see it from the block.
What's up, Southeast?
Hello, sir. How are you? I'm not going to give him what he wants. I'm not giving him what he wants.
That's just how we roll.
I get it. But as my brother here was talking about focus, I need y'all to understand that if you have any friends that have ADHD, we are not okay. There is a national shortage on our medication.
Yes.
So that focus that you got, I need some of that. Because we are struggling. We are struggle bus over here. But other than that, it's going well. It's going well.
Now, does that coincide with cannabis going up?
Listen, I have nothing to do with that other than the fact that it's legal, and I need people to understand that it's legal in your home. Y'all are taking it outside. It's legal in your home, and you can grow up to 4 plants in your home. That was the law. That was the law.
Right. Let's not rewrite that.
But I'm driving around smelling it, and that's not your home. That is the corner.
You see it in the tunnel. I'm smelling it.
Like, I have had to put on the recycle air in my car, so I don't go to a meeting smelling like y'all's fun. done on my way to the meeting.
Or get a contact.
We got to go back over some of these
Isn't that the same thing as like driving drunk, like driving, drinking, right?
It is
and
illegal
people
to drive
keep
like that.
treating this like it's something different, like it's like smoking a cigarette in your car, and that is not true.
We've got to do some public education.
And I lock people up for that.
Okay,
I'm sure you
listen.
We lock people up for a lot of reasons.
I do.
We just want you to know.
I do.
But listen, we have listened to the audience. The audience has, told us some things about the first few shows.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you for letting us know the feedback. And one of the things that came back was Tom was talking too much.
Wow.
That's what we got back.
See, distractions. You see what I mean?
That's what
Distractions.
No. What we got back was that we were all talking over each other.
Right.
And this is why he said the lane.
We have heard you all. We're gonna do better at not talking over each other. So y'all need to listen to me.
We'll try.
When I'm talking, please let's just make that work. We're gonna take a break now. We got a great show that we're gonna talk about. Hope you're enjoying it so far. This is The Crew. And welcome back to The Crew. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We even have a podcast. It's available on Spotify and Apple. And all of this is because of our producer extraordinaire.
I know that's right.
Jason Covington. Come on, let's give it up for Jason. Doing a fantastic job.
Makes it happen.
We elevating what we're doing here.
I know, we're coming on up.
We like the Jeffersons. Moving up
We're moving on up.
to the east side.
Okay.
All jokes aside, though, we do want to talk about a serious matter. We have watched the Father's Day episode by Kirk Franklin. For those of you who are not familiar, it's on YouTube. It's a documentary about his life, and it's heartbreaking on so many levels, and it falls in line with the Dirty Laundry series.
Yes.
So, Ton, for those of you people who haven't seen it, give people a quick rundown of what it's all about.
So Kirk Franklin, for those who have followed him and are familiar with him, he's very transparent about a lot of things that he's faced in his life. He's talked about growing up, having to live on the streets, his mom abandoned him at 4 years of age, and how sister was on drugs and had suffered a sexual assault that opened him up to pornography that he battled with into adulthood, was a teenage father. And the person that he thought was his father, his biological father, he found out recently at age 53 that that was not his father. And as if that was not bad enough, he found out just by happenstance. Apparently, there was a funeral. Right. And at this funeral, there were, I guess, like family, friends, and members who were there, and they saw this guy, and they said, wow, he looks like Kirk Franklin. And the guy said, well, I dated his mom when I was a little boy. And so the rumor mill started spreading, of course, because it's a small town. Right. And so his mom called him and said, look, I know you've probably been hearing some whispers, and if you want some answers, I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. She said, and I said, I would never lie to you. I will not lie to you. Now, mark that statement.
Yes.
I will not lie to you.
She said.
She said, I will not lie to you.
She sure did.
Okay, let's move on. So the guy sent his DNA samples or swabs for Kirk to do an analysis. He said, look, I know you've been hearing some things, and so I tell you what, I have swabbed myself. If you want to know whether it's true or not, here are my samples, and you can do an analysis and find out for yourself. So Kirk did just that. He wanted to know. He wanted to make sure, because the person that he thought was his father had died. And he talks about how he hated this guy. He hated this guy because this guy did not take care of him, and he had been homeless, and he had just gone through all types of abusive situations, traumatic situations. So fast forward, he takes the DNA test, and it's this guy, the new guy. He finds out that person that he hated all his life
was never his father.
Sheesh.
Lies.
And dead.
And dead.
So now he can't even make it right.
Right.
He can't even make it right with the guy.
Right.
Hold on, it goes deeper. So then he goes and he confronts mom about the situation. Mom says, oh, that DNA is not reliable, and I'm telling you on everything that is not your father, that this was your father that's dead, and he is not your father through the DNA. And we all know Dana don't lie.
Yeah,
What they say,
99.999.
Yes.
So to put it in context too, Kirk and his mom have always had an estranged relationship.
They have.
So his grandmother raised him.
Well, you know,
It was a distant family member.
That's right. But not the mother.
Not the mother. Right. The mother abandoned him. And in fact, in some reports that I've been, I did some research before we came up here. And some reports, it's recorded that she actually told him, I do not want you. I do not want you. It is recorded that she has allegedly said this. So he's lived with that scar all his life. Abandonment from mom and rejection from the person he thought was dad.
Yes.
Until he gets this test. So after speaking to mom and mom denies it again, he gets another DNA test. And the second DNA test is 99.99%. So he is standing in this show, he's standing across the table from mom, his aunt, his biological aunt, and he's telling her, just tell me the truth. Right. That's all I want. And she's like, well, I told you the truth. And then she gives him some crocodile tears because she's like, this is not your father. This test is a lie. Even her sister, the aunt, is like, look, just tell the boy the truth. Right. Come on, man. At this point, just tell the gig is up. Stop it. The gig is up, right? Stop it. The gig is up. Tell the truth. You're caught in your lies. You didn't blame this man. You probably got child support from this man that's dead. And now you're dealing with all of this that's coming out 53 years later, and now it's up.
She's ashamed.
So now the question is, we love our moms because for whatever reason, we love mom. Mom gave life to us. And so mom can be ratchet as all get out. I said it, ratchet.
Thank you.
But we still love mom. We'll talk about dad now. If dad do wrong, or dad disrespect, or dad leaves, or dad does whatever, we'll talk and I'm talking about as a society. We'll talk about dad. But as a society, we don't call out bad mothers because that's almost an oxymoron. Bad mother, but I've prosecuted some bad mothers. Moms who've actually killed their kids on purpose. On purpose. Babies, killed them on purpose. So there is such thing as a bad mother. For sure. Someone who's supposed to be a protector is now prey.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Because there's layers to this. I mean, there's a
layers.
There's even the side of the father that we'll get to later. Alvin, let me start with you. You're a mother. You hearing this story now, right? Yeah. And seeing how this played out, seeing how it impacted Kirk. What goes through your mind as a mother hearing this story?
So the shame as women working to try to avoid having to own some of our decision making.
Yeah.
And I imagine, and this is not to give any pass to the mom in any form or fashion, but what I'm saying is that being loose as a woman is one of the things, and people will call it slut shaming, but I have my feelings about that terminology. But the fact that we are not able to acknowledge that some of us women had a good time. Some of us were frisky. Some of us were doing some things. Some of us were scratching some itches. Okay,
are you using euphemism?
Yeah, of course, because we're trying to be appropriate on the show. Okay, we might have left the pastor study, but
right.
The church hasn't fully left us. Okay, so some of us have done some things, and because we generationally, of course, our younger people these days are doing all kinds of stuff, and they're quite proud of it. I wish they'd be a little more ashamed about some of the stuff they're doing. But the generation that Kirk's mom would have come from, there are very few things worse than not knowing who your baby daddy is. And so bad that she would rather hold on to that than to give her son, a grown man, what it is that she owes him. And it just, to me, speaks to the level of trauma, insecurity, rejection, issue, all those internal things that we struggle with, and we're not willing to talk about them. And that's exactly why we started this series. It's the dirty laundry we won't be honest about that helps to perpetuate more trauma in each other's lives. So as a mom, I mean, my immediate thought was, wow, this is what happens when you don't deal with your stuff. You will lie to protect your trash. I call it raccooning. Okay, because only a raccoon will fight you for their trash. And we do that as humans when we are so unwilling to come to the truth of things, to own our stuff in things. And because we won't own our stuff, we just perpetuate pain inside of that. So those are my first thoughts.
So Al, even in that, right? And that's the part I don't get. 2 DNA tests.
Right.
I mean, there's no getting around. 2 DNA tests that's sitting right in front of you.
Listen, we had political parties that were talking about alternative facts. Okay, so as far as that mom was concerned,
one part talking about that.
Okay, as far as that mom was concerned, she had alternative facts to the DNA test. Okay, like
but to that point, right? Why would you want to hold, like, your son is sitting right in front of you?
Right.
Why do you want to hold that lie and look at your son dead in the eye and say, that still ain't right? Because now you're ruining the relationship with your son by not telling the truth.
Because it has never been about him. It has always been about her. And her willingness and her ability to abandon him in the first place was about her. Because I understand when somebody is unable to parent, but that doesn't mean that you're unable to be present. You could still be present in your child's life, even if you're not in a position to be able to parent right now. So that you can show up, and I'm not going to miss a game. I'm not going to miss a such and such. I might not have the money to be able to feed you, shelter you, or clothe you, but love is free.
Right.
So I could still show up for you in terms of love, and I can still tell you that you are worthy, and that I would have given anything to be able to do for you what it is that you deserve. But because I can't, I'm going to allow Auntie so-and-so, such and such, adoptive parent, whatever that is, because that's what open adoptions are about. It's the fact that I recognize that I'm not in a position to be able to parent, but I do not want to exit the capacity to be able to love. And because I'm an adoptive parent, I know, like, long other story, but I understand what it means to have somebody still in your child's life, because your child deserves that. But the parent, the adult on the other side of that is their responsibility.
Yes.
And so she chose herself over him again. That's all that happened. That I'm not willing to sacrifice me for you at any level of your life. It's still going to be about me, protecting my interests, my reputation, my perception of self, and all of this she built for herself because she was a trash mom. We're just going to be honest about it. She was a trash mother. And so she's still writing a narrative that nobody else is buying anyway, which only tells you that it's about selfishness.
Ray, to Anton's point, man, what do you think, man, do we give moms a pass, society-wise, more so than dads? Because if this was about the dad would have he'd have been crucified, hung upside down.
Oh my,
all
man,
of that. But
listen.
Does mom get grace?
I agree 110% with what Albion had to say. Shameless plug for me, and far be it for me to agree with Albion so early in the show, so early in the show on today. But just to simply say that we tend to give mothers a pass because of what mothers represent to children. And I've often been quoted as saying between ages 0 and 5, mothers are the primary caretakers of children. They are the ones that help to shape and develop character in children. So when you look at the impact of what this is having on Kirk, the part that makes me angry is that you can see clearly from those of us who watch the video, and I encourage every man, every woman, I encourage every married couple, particularly to go watch it, so that for those men who are fathers today who did not have fathers, you will get a glimpse and understanding the psyche of your husband as he's trying to do something he's never seen. Because you could clearly see Kirk be a 10-year-old boy sitting across the table.
Yep.
Wow.
While he is a grown man at 53 years old, you can see the 10-year-old in him that is confused, that's looking for acceptance, that's really trying to find out identity. Who am I? Why am I here? And then I'm sure we'll get into this later on in the show. And that is the other side of his feelings of how he treated this other guy. Who he thought was his father, that he cannot go back and rectify and reconcile with. So you've got the duality of all of that happening at the same time, which is excruciatingly painful for those who've had that kind of experience. So I was angry, hurt, frustrated, and then on the other side of that, I'm going, finally, and I don't even think we're even there yet, Alvin. I don't think we're at the place yet, societally, where we are holding, for quote unquote, to use your term, trash moms responsible for being trash moms. I still don't think we're there. Even when you have got the evidence, because like Anton said, Dana ain't lying right now. The DNA is real clear, but I don't think we're at a place yet where the accountability is being brought to play. Because if we really want to get into this on the dirty laundry side of it, it's a whole lot of children running around who are thinking somebody is their father that is not their father.
Facts.
And it's a whole lot of discussion that's got to be had in regards to that. So I think that this is the tip of the iceberg to pull back the layers so we can get down to everybody having some level of accountability for their actions and behavior. Absolutely. We all do stuff at 18, 16, 17, 19, 20 years old. The difference is now your stuff can come back, and when it does come back, you got to own it. And I think...
And she did not.
She did not, clearly.
See, what you think about all this?
You know, one thing I wonder, when we're in this reality TV time, right? I do wonder if things would have gone differently if the cameras weren't present. Like if she would have clung to that lie so heavily, if she was not cognizant at the very moment that the general public was in that conversation as well. Like everybody knew this was going to come out. Just like when you watch some of the episodes, it's like, it's not real. It's scripted because, the presence of the cameras. But so, I hope, I think that's just helping me, to hope that it would have been different, But just, I think a couple of things come up for me. One is the I guess unfairness of, so this is what happens when you don't let people just be, right? So there are people like me that had made decisions from early ages. I don't want to have kids. I knew that from an early age. I didn't want to have kids. I got called selfish because I don't want to have children. But I think what we see is having children when you don't want children is the real selfishness, right? And how some of these things come out. So as we have these conversations, I want to make sure that they're comprehensive. So when somebody says, you know what, I'm making a conscious decision to not have children because of this or because of that, or I may not be up for what all it is that y'all go through on a daily basis, even after your kids are 18, right? And I had wonderful parents. So it wasn't that I had any trauma. It's just like, that ain't for me. And okay, so let us be, because we not the ones causing problems. But then it's like the real conversations happen when a woman's identity is tied to whether or not she has children. There's so many conversations that happen in the world that I'm just like, all right, y'all, I'm still here too. When it's about motherhood, and it almost becomes synonymous with womanhood, right? And so I wonder if we start to have these conversations about trash moms, if we can start encouraging people to do self-assessments before they have kids, maybe we weren't all cut out to be moms. Agreed. Or if we can have real conversations and stop acting like abstinence works, right? And have conversations about what contraception looks like, right. So that you can make the decision of when it's a right time to have kids or not. But a lot of this can be prevented
100%.
in other families if we would just be real about the biology of that DNA is the same biology of how kids are born, how contraception works. So that is my plug, hoping that the Supreme Court, while it's going after other things, do not come for contraception, or we're going to have more stories like this for more generations, and we're never going to be able to catch up on the trauma that's running after us.
Oh, I
People
so
having
agree.
sex, they ain't thinking about no kids. Let's just be honest here. We can say it all we want. Nobody is thinking about
Y'all don't want me to talk about the other part.
Nobody is thinking about STDs or babies in the heat of the moment.
Yep.
Right? And Todd, you said it in one of the last shows. Everybody ain't fit to be a parent.
Oh, please.
But they out here having these kids.
Everybody shouldn't be a parent.
You're right.
Yep.
But they having sex anyway.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You can have sex and have sex responsibly. But people don't think about taking responsibility. People are not disciplined. Discipline is a dirty D word
That
now.
is a
We
fact.
are not disciplined in this
That is a
society.
That's fact. good.
And so you will do whatever you feel like. It's my thing. Do what I want to do. That's the mindset of so many people nowadays. And that's why you got grandmas that's 29 years old. That's 29 years old. You know, I had a murder case where, matter of fact, it was a young boy who the person was in grade school. I think it was in like second grade, and his grandma was like 32, got killed in the middle of the street in the roadway fighting somebody else at like 2 o'clock in the morning. What is a grandma doing out in the street at 2 o'clock in the morning fighting?
Because she's 32.
Well, she's 32 years old.
I was going to say, the title doesn't come with the responsibility.
She ain't 52. She's 32.
Okay.
But
and
it's
52, she might be in the
crazy.
street still. Because 52 ain't that old.
So yes, you're absolutely right. It is crazy. And these are the issues that are happening in our community.
Yes.
These are the things that we're not talking about.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so the question is, again, why doesn't moms get a pass in certain situations like this? Clearly, this mother has done Kirk horribly wrong.
Dirty. She's done him dirty.
Right? But we all know in here, if the dad had done horribly wrong to Kirk like the mom, this narrative would be completely different.
Well, the narrative's not different from me. Because you
equal opportunity.
I'm
Todd.
equal opportunity.
Surprise.
That's right. I'm equal opportunity. You out there hoeing, you out there hoeing. And when you don't know who your baby daddy is, you out there hoeing.
Right. That's
so
a
let's
fact.
just call it. Just
That
like
is
I
a
call it
fact.
hoes in the pulpit,
But Todd, let me
hoes in the streets.
Don't
You out there hoeing, you out there hoeing.
But as we are having these conversations too, like I think that the cloth splits both ways, right? So you got to be hoeing with somebody.
Sure you do.
Right? But that's another double standard. So I think it's like a couple of double standards that we need to expose. No, but I'm saying
men hoeing too.
But we're not calling it. Time calls them hoes. But society
At large.
is not calling the people that these women are having sex with.
Right.
They don't get called sluts. They don't get called certain things. So let's open it all. Let's
Let's
talk
open-
about it
let's
all.
open it up.
And let's teach the boys, the girls,
I'm
the
with
days,
you.
the
I'm
thems,
with you on that.
everyone, the responsibility of it all. But you get to stuff like this because we're not doing that now.
So let's open it up because
Let's
that's
do it.
part of
Let's
the
do it.
conversation. Because
Right.
part of the conversation is, I mean, you know, I can't stand a trifling Negro, and you know I want to call it something else. So I'm just gonna keep it real with you. But I can't stand a trifling Negro, and y'all have heard me on the show call out trifling Negroes, bed hopping from female to female to
Yep.
female,
Yep.
and to me that's a hoe. You know,
Yep.
you ain't nothing but a gigolo. That's all you are, but you're a hoe. And so I will call a dude out in a heartbeat, but we don't call females out, basically out of respect, because we don't want to come across, well,
Who respects women?
hold on.
At large,
It's
see it.
not mothers.
At large, see it.
I'm
At
talking about at
large,
large.
society respects women
I
at
think
large.
at large.
At
Wait a
large.
minute. Are we really about to sit here and say that we are not teaching our girls to not wear bonnets and to be a certain way so that they can be picked up and keep them virginal so that they can get into their heterosexual husband relationships? And if we're telling our boys to go sow their wild oats and get it out their system before they get married, we have that mixed message today. And the women are not respected. Now, the mothers might be, but women who are having sexual relations with multiple people who don't know who their children's father, they are not respected.
No.
Let's be very clear.
Well, hold on, but I don't respect the dude either.
But that's you.
Okay.
But I'm saying general society, they get the likes, they get the ups, they get the this, they get the athletes, they get passes and everything. So we're not about to sit here on this day. We're not about to sit here and act like women who are having multiple sexual partners are not disrespected outside their name on a daily basis.
I think it depends on who you're talking to. Depending on who you're talking to, because like there are plenty of people who are equal opportunity people like me who would say he is trifling just like she being trifling. There's plenty of us that's out there. Now, do women get dissed and dogged out more than men for trifling ways? Absolutely, I agree with that. I think that women are at the low end of the totem pole in society when it comes to disrespect. And that's why we see it displayed in music, entertainment, and social media on a big basis. However, there are plenty of us as well who will call out equally men as well as, and I don't call them men, I call them males.
Right.
Because
You're right.
a man is going to take care of his kid.
Right.
A male can just have a kid.
Right.
And so I think there are plenty of us who will call them out equally, though.
But I think that ties into the question of, maybe mothers get the pass because they have reached the pinnacle of what it means to be a woman in society's eyes by having the child. And us single women over here are denigrated every day. We don't even have to be doing nothing, but we do something that somebody doesn't like, we are. Like, that's just how it happens. And so maybe it is how we put mothers on a pedestal, because that is when they finally become somebody, by having that child. So y'all gonna have to make up your minds. That's what I just want society to make up.
Well, who is y'all, though?
No, I'm just saying, not you, but like general society. Just the same people that would high five an athlete for getting all these women pregnant, but are talking bad about the women for it. Well, they should have known because he's an athlete. You know how that duality happens in conversations? Those people. So not you, but the way society treats women, whether you're doing one or the other, but that duality, I think we're going to have to nip that in the bud if we want to actually get to be able to talk about how moms are trash moms.
Well, in this case, I think we can agree.
Oh, absolutely.
That Kirk's mom did Kirk dirty. Can we all agree to that?
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay.
Stamp and approve.
Okay.
100%.
Right. So, but then there's the father side. So let's talk about that. And so, for years, Kirk admitted that he hated who he thought it was his father. Because he said, I went to school, I got bullied, you never came to protect me, I was homeless. You never provided for me. He said he had one conversation with who he thought was his dad, shared all of this. Dad basically said, yeah, I get where you're coming from. And that was it.
That was it.
Right? And now he realized that wasn't even his dad.
It was not.
And to go deeper, the guy that was his dad just lived down the street.
Right down the street.
From where he
His
was.
whole
And hold
life.
on, and he was affluent.
Yes,
Right.
he was.
Because that house looked pretty big.
It
It did. And so
He did well for himself.
He did well for
yeah.
himself. Whatever
Yeah.
he does well for himself.
Yeah.
In fact, he said his son, one of his children, used to play ball like a couple of blocks.
Yes.
From where this guy was all this time, and he was homeless.
Yes. And father was right down the street.
Right there.
But dad didn't know.
Didn't know.
Right.
But he didn't know that he was the father.
Yeah, because he was not trifling in this at all.
He cried.
Yeah.
Lord.
Have mercy.
And it was genuine. Those
Yeah, I
tears,
thought-
those were genuine
I
tears.
think it was genuine.
Genuine tears. And then the part that struck me with this is when Kirk, now you realize that we know Kirk has an estranged relationship with his oldest son.
Right.
And so as a result of this, now you see the cycle come back around.
Repeating itself again.
Repeating itself,
Yep.
right? But what Kirk does, what struck me about this, for those who didn't see the video, is that he sits down with his son and explains, hey, listen, I got something to tell you. I know who my father is, and then hits him with the DNA. And then now the grandson is having a tearful moment of relief that I had so many questions about who am I and who are we, and now I can get those questions answered. And you see a connection happen between Kirk and his son, a reconciliation moment, which is to say really how important fathers are in terms of establishing identity, establishing legacy, and then helping to set courses of direction for their children. And I think that this part of the story actually should get some airplay. My question is it going to get enough airplay or not? Or are we going to continue to focus in on the stuff that men are not doing with their children? Because here you have a reconciliation moment, and I loved how the father sat down from across the table. This is the part that got me. Dignified like, and literally said, you can do whatever you want to do with this information. You can involve me in the life of your children to the degree that you would like to involve me with your children. I am here for you at your pace, however you want to do this. I thought that was absolutely stellar. You're showing the other side of who fathers are or who men are as fathers. Loved it.
Yeah, and so I'm putting myself in Kirk's shoes now for a minute. I got a mother who has lied to my face.
Yeah.
My whole life.
My whole life.
My whole life. I got a guy that's in the ground that I thought was my dad. That's not my dad. Yikes. And I let him have it while he was living, and I can't make that right. Now I got my real dad, who
never got a chance
to know him, figure it out, and hopefully we can have a relationship. And there was one scene where he said, I'm going to come hug you.
Right.
I don't know how I'm going to feel, but I'm just going to hug you.
Yeah.
So Kirk is never, what amazes me, y'all, is here is a multi-gifted, multi-talented person whose private life has been marred by insecurities and fears and doubts, addictions, his whole life. And his lack of identity and knowing himself. This is what generational curses is.
Yes.
We think it's all just in the church and spells and demonic. This is generational curses at its best.
Yes.
But
and this is the part we got to talk about.
And that's exactly what the point is. You know, like our unwillingness to be naked about what's really happening in our lives is the very reason that we're sick as a culture. That you are only as sick as your secrets. And because we keep some really terrible secrets in order to protect this fictitious narrative. Because the reality is most folks don't care about you anyway. So who are you performing for?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so we're running around thinking about what this person's going to say and what that person's going to say and what everybody's this and everybody's that. And at the end of the day, we're also consumed with ourselves that we're really not thinking about the next person. So we are playing for a make-believe audience and we are ruining our own lives trying to perform for people who are never going to care. And the same thing is true whether it's your company, baby, you are sacrificing your family and your children for a company that tomorrow, if you die, they're replacing you the next day.
Quickly.
Okay? Like, so do understand, and I'm not saying don't be excellent as you serve. I'm just saying keep things in the right place. And very often we have things out of place. And because of the way that we do that in so many different ways, we are sick because of it. And some of it is self-inflicted.
It is.
You know, like this
Most
is not
of it.
just what's happening out there, it's what's happening in here. And I've always loved my favorite quote, and you guys have heard me say it many times from Bishop Jakes, is that a ship does not sink because of the water it sits inside. It sinks because of the water that gets inside of it. And the thing that has cost us as people of color is how much of what was sick out there became our sickness in here.
Yes.
We internalized some mess that we're still unable to cleanse from who we are. And it doesn't even matter what anybody else is doing. I'm not even focused on what anybody else is doing. What we're allowing to happen to ourselves is the thing that breaks my heart.
And Ton, listen, man, your courtroom is filled because I'm thinking if kids is getting treated like Kirk on a day-to-day basis, I know I don't care about nobody because nobody cares about me.
Right. Right.
So why wouldn't I shoot up somebody?
Right.
Why
It's
wouldn't
easy
I
to
hurt
do.
somebody else? Because nobody in my own family wants to affirm who I am or even tell me the truth about who I am.
We've had teenagers to literally prophesy their death date. The year that they were going to die. There was one young man who said, I will not live to be 19, and he died before he was 19, shot to death, and died in the arms of his younger brother who watched him get shot, watched him die, and that younger brother later will also get shot. Generational curses.
It is. It's generational curses. And so, we're not going to talk about, Alvin, to your point, it's, what's happening in the house. This stuff is what's spilling out.
It's what's spilling out.
Right.
And this is why kids are so angry.
Right.
Because I don't have no place to lay all this stuff. If I don't know who I am, nobody's affirming me, nobody would tell me the truth. I'm walking around like a time bomb.
And a matter of fact, to add to that, and that's the thing that we also don't talk about, how much our boys need love.
That's it.
Yeah.
We do so much more for, and I'm not saying that we haven't failed many times for both genders, but I am saying that we put this thing on our young black boys and we call them little man before they're even finished
That's
being baby
good.
boys.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And with that orientation, we add this thing onto them to suggest that somehow they are stronger than they're meant to be, that they can carry more weight than they are meant to carry, that they can handle more pain than they're meant to handle. They've even done studies to see how long you allow boy children to cry versus girl children, how quickly we respond and soothe the tears of our female baby children, but we don't with our boys because after all, society's going to be tough, so they have to be tough.
Right.
But we don't realize that we needed to first give them everything they need before we send them out there where there's going to be nothing but withdrawals. But we send them out with an empty account because after all, society is going to have you empty. But if I send you out full, then you can handle the withdrawals. But we're not sending them out full. No. We're assuming get used to the having nothing, so the having nothing won't be a problem out there, as opposed to let me fill you up so that you are not overdrawn by the time you step out there. We don't do right by our boys. And to Ray's point about seeing Kirk still be a 10-year-old boy as a 53-year-old man, it is evident. It is pure evidence that our men that are walking around today with all of the issues that they may have, the ways in which they may not be meeting the mark as partners, as professionals, as all the ways that they aren't meeting those marks that we perceive are necessary for men, do understand that inside of that grown man that you're critiquing is still a little boy who still needs to be affirmed and to be loved. And the healthiest marriages and partnerships that happen to be heterosexual partnerships are those in which the woman inside of that understands what her man needs. She still speaks to the little boy on the inside. She still affirms him and tells him that he's doing a good job. She still holds him. She lets him be spooned. He doesn't always need to be the big spoon. Sometimes he needs to be the little spoon. And it's okay. And he's no less strong and he's no less a man because he still needs the little boy on the inside of him to still be loved. But we don't talk about that because we are more interested in the strength of our men than healing the tears of our men. And that's why we mix up depression and anger because it's weak for men to express their sadness. So instead it's turned inside out and you get anger and you think he has an anger management issue. But the truth is he's depressed. And he can't express that because it's not socially acceptable to be vulnerable like that. And because we operate like this, we continue to force our men into toxic masculinity and they can't address the hurt that they really have because it's not safe. And we've created that.
We have.
Can I enter in some systems and structures?
That's what you do.
So listen, I just want to let y'all know, so full circle, the work that we do here at the General Assembly, right? So within this last budget, one of the reasons why I could not support it. So one of the issues that we are talking about is that our children spend most of their day at school. And if our educational system could be fully funded, it would include wraparound services to include behavioral health and mental health services. So when I fought for $8 million to get there, they cut it back to $4 million. right? So how am I going to support that when I know that if the little brother, before he was killed, watched his big brother be killed, what is he learning in school? Right? If we don't know where our next meal is coming from, if we don't know if mom's going to be able to make the rent, if we don't know who daddy is, and all of these things that our children are dealing with, and we do not have services to meet the moments that they have of need, either in the community, let me be honest, in the churches or even in the schools, then they are going to continue to be walking around as ticking time bombs. And if we're not stepping in because, for whatever reason, their families aren't coming to church, so it's not happening in church and it's not happening in the school, then we have said, you know what? If we're not going to fully fund schools in order to be the places where they can get the help, then we are okay with what's going on. And this is why elections matter for everything that we talk about. And so I know, there are people out there that say, well, I'm just not political. Well, life is political.
Hello.
Because every single thing that we have mentioned in this room today and what we always talk about is political. And we are underfunding what our children need in this moment in schools.
So let me just to set context of that. See, you mean to tell me out of the $6.14 billion surplus, we couldn't get $8 million of that to come back to locales to do wraparound services for mental health and school programs inside of urban communities?
No, I'm not gonna trash the whole budget, right? So there are things that are being,
which is to say that's a structural issue of class.
Right? But your budget document tells you what your priorities are. Where you put your money is what your priorities are. So I can point to you that the governor was trying to get $1 billion worth of corporation tax cuts. That was his priority. And I'm sitting here scrapping for $8 million out of a $6.4 billion, right?
Yeah. And keep in mind, we saying surplus.
Right.
We're talking about after everything paid.
Not to mention a lot of the families that we're talking about are low-income families.
Right.
And most of them will not get any of the tax relief that we did pass. And so I get it why people want to celebrate some of the good that's in the budget. But when you have that as a situation, when we are watching the aftermath of what this is doing into our community, and I'm just going to sit there and be like, well, at least it's something. I'm not built like that. I have to say no so that I can say today, this is why I said no. And this is why the next budget needs to show that we care about these things. And I'm not saying money can fix everything, but if you're not investing in services for little Kirk Franklins,
listen,
you're going to have big Kirk Franklins in your courtroom.
Let me please understand the big Kirk Franklins are not going to be award-winning, multi-million-dollar individolls. Okay, they're going to be the ones in Anton's courtroom
with the children and the children's children and the children's children.
Dr. Swan,
R. Kelly's.
Last time I checked, the scripture said, "Money answereth all things."
Yes,
but give us the money.
But it also says that show me if where your treasure is. There also is your heart.
There you go.
Okay, it also says that.
And I believe everything you said. I just want to add a caveat to it because wraparound services are 100% needed.
Absolutely.
If families will take advantage of it.
But see, here's the thing. When you're talking about systems, they don't often have options. Right, so it's not the same thing for the churches where like you all have to try and get your members to do it.
Because if in this case, of Kirk's case, if a wraparound service came in and heard everything that Kirk was going through, CPS probably would step in and take Kirk away. Right, so it goes back to a conversation we had earlier about this is why our families don't talk. Right, this is why our families keep code. Because if I let anybody from the outside in, even if the service is beneficial to me, it's going to be a consequence, right? And usually the consequence is you're going to hear the truth about what really is going on in the family, the dysfunction in the family, and that might mean the child got to go.
Well, I'll say
if the child is homeless.
Let me add to that just slightly, just because I worked in human services for so many years. There is a significant, and Anton knows this, the threshold you have to meet before they take that kid out of the house, quite honestly, all of us, we would have removed that kid way before they met that threshold.
Yeah.
The reality is we let it go way too far before we actually intervene. You know, so wraparound services, when done appropriately, help to prevent the child being removed from the home.
Or even
rather than
intervene,
CPS snatching that kid. They do everything to keep that kid with their biological family, and quite frankly, sometimes to the child's detriment.
Right.
Do they hold
Many
them in there
times.
so far?
So even in that case, if mom is lying to protect herself, and a wraparound service comes in, she gonna lie to the wraparound service.
Yeah,
right?
but that DNA, the way those Carfax are set up, it wouldn't matter what mom said.
And I'm not saying
But you
that.
understand what I'm saying,
I
right?
absolutely get it. What you're saying, just the same way that churches offer, these services. If the people are not going to identify that they have a problem in order to get the services that they need to help with the problem, you can't help everything. That is true. But there are some families that are absolutely drowning. That if they just had that one teacher step in and say, "Let me tell you, we have this for your child,"
I agree.
They would step up and take it. So you can't. I don't think that we can make a lot of the laws and policies based on those who would not use it. There are so many that could benefit from it that I don't think it's a waste. But yeah, absolutely. It's going to take honesty. It's going to take people facing, the dirty laundry of it all. But
now one thing I will comment on about service. Kirk did say that he is his therapist's longest client.
Yeah.
So he's been doing therapy for a very long time to help him process this, which I thought was major. Because even today in the Black community, we don't like to talk about therapy.
Right.
Because we think it means you're crazy.
Right.
It might be the thing that keeps you from going.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because if he didn't have God and a therapist,
Facts.
he would not be
together.
And
a
often you need
multi-platinum.
both, okay?
Often you need both.
Okay, this is one of Ray's both and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can we just talk about that, please?
Both and.
Can we just talk about that, please? For a minute?
Yes.
Matter of fact, by a show of hands, how many of us in here have gone to counsel? Oh. Okay. Because I want
And
people
for those that can't, sorry.
because I want people to see, if you're watching, everybody has their hand raised.
Yep.
Right? So we got to find a way to get rid of this stigma in our community that counseling is bad or is something wrong. It helped all of us
Absolutely.
in here, in our situation. And I know you're going to say something.
I was just going to say, if you think about what we've been through in the last 3 years, if you think about the average things that people have to face on a daily basis, we were not built to handle all of this. And so to me, it is not weakness by saying, you know what, I want to talk this through with somebody so I can make the best decisions, right? And so that's what I use it as, is like a sounding board. It's like, so I know I'm not crazy, right? Like all of this gaslighting that is happening where the thing happens and then the news tells you, nope, that's not what happened. Right. Or the politicians or whoever tells you, nope, Anton, that's not what happened. Like you should feel crazy today. As a normal, you should feel absolutely crazy. And so there are these things that are diagnosable, and I think we only pay attention to the things that are like, schizophrenia that have been in movies and that have been like, we've done ourselves a disservice thinking that you have to be to a certain point in order to need help.
Right.
And you can prevent yourself from some of these situations by going to talk to someone or going to get the proper diagnosis. So if it is for you, the medication is there so that you can have a day where you can manage all of the things that are coming at you. And so, I talk about my ADHD, and I was late. I was diagnosed later in life, and all of these things that I was struggling. I thought life was supposed to be that hard, y'all. I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know that the depression and the anxiety were because I was trying to lift some stuff that was not humanly possible to lift by myself. And it was not until the medication, until the therapy, that it was just like, oh, honey, no.
Right.
You need to put a lot of that down.
Right.
And now I can say I'm able to go out into the world healthy and happy. And Alvin, you have helped me with that. All of y'all have helped me with that. And just being secure in the fact that I can say it out loud. And I want everybody to know, because I want everybody to go get it too. Get you some help.
Right.
Get you some
Get some help.
And that's really where I want to land the plane today and talk about this. All of us have positions of influence, and we're blessed to have that. I imagine that for every Kirk Franklin that is bold enough and have the ability to tell their story, there are thousands
for sure.
of others who don't.
For sure.
Right? So let's imagine for a second that each of us, that a Kirk came to us in private and kind of said, this is my situation. Because I want to encourage those who are watching this, listening to this, to know where to go and how to find help. What do we tell them if somebody says, you know what, I got issues in my family, there's some generational traumas, there's some hurts that have impacted our whole family. It's a dynamic. What do we tell them, y'all? So let's have that conversation for the time we have left.
Having been in that situation, I recommended that people go to family therapy and individual therapy. And we could name, some agencies and entities if we want to get into that. But alongside prayer and study and scripture is family therapy and individual therapy, so that you can talk through the issues that you have individually and then inside of the family context. And then I would also say the place that I've been to in Hidden North Carolina, it's like gold for me. I go at least once now every year on a weekend and just retreat away and rework back through some of the issues that I've already worked through. I'm going to say that again. Rework back through some of the issues that I've already worked through, which is to say, you're not going to get over everything just through a few sessions. It's going to take time, and you have to have a commitment to the process of time of working through it, because this stuff, Alvin, as you know, comes in layers. And if you don't get to all of the layers, a triggering moment can happen, and all of a sudden something else come back up that you didn't realize was there. Or sometimes, Tom, we try to pretend like it ain't there when it really is there.
And Ray, can we just be honest before I go around? I mean, we're pastors. Just praying this away.
You can't.
I know that God can do all things.
No.
But we got to get beyond.
Stop telling you can pray it all. Okay, let me stop.
And we know that the miraculous can happen.
Yes.
Right.
But there's some other things that can be done too while we're believing God for healing.
The folk don't know God like that.
Can we just please say that? It can be. So somebody else, where do we?
It's funny that you said that, Kevin, because that's exactly where I was going to go with it. In that, more often than not, the people who are not getting the therapy that they need are believing that they are not supposed to, and that God is supposed to be able to fix that, right? But I would go to if it were the Kirks of the world, as an adult, that is to say, because as a child, you don't have a lot of autonomy, right? But as an adult, I would say that, there's a reason why the Bible says that it is not good that man should be alone. That is not just about romantic partnership. We need one another. Yes. And it also says, forsake not the assembling, for a reason. Because when we're by ourselves, our crazy sounds logical. So you need other folks. God knew how we were going to operate. And so he needs you to go have conversations with folks and say some things out loud so somebody else can say to you, baby, don't ever say that again. Okay, because that right there, that is unhealthy. All right. So, and I know that might have made sense to you in your head, but honey, that is not healthy. You need to have some folks to have those conversations with. There is nothing weak about leaning on someone else, which is also why the Bible speaks to that where two are together. That we if one falls in the field, the other can help lift them up. Over and over again, it speaks to why we need partnership and godly counsel. So you are actually fulfilling the scripture by getting the help and the support you need. It was the mistake of the church. Let me say that one more time. It was the mistake of the church to preach otherwise. It is not the mistake for you to go get help. It was a mistake for them to suggest that you didn't need help.
Right.
We need the help. And at every level, please understand that your pastor is going through this as much pain as you are. And he's working through it in ways and needs to work through it in the same kinds of ways that you do. Yeah. So there is nothing wrong with it. Give yourself the gift of healing by seeking godly counsel.
Yeah, that's very good, Al. And Tom, let me just say this because we're almost out of time. You probably see Kirks in the courtroom every day. Now, I know you still got a job to do, right? Because there's a legal implication behind it. But I said earlier, you got all the Kellys of the world. It seems to me that in both cases, R. Kelly and Kirk, both of them were traumatized as children. Right. One decided to carry out the dysfunction and how it happened to him, which is where he's in prison. Kirk did not. But the reality is this trauma is unfolding. So if you just lock somebody up, which I know you have the job to do, right? You have a responsibility to keep communities safe. Nothing happens when they're away, right? There's no rehabilitation while they're away. There's just time that you are away, right?
Your point.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, Tom. Don't get defensive. We're almost out of time. Right?
I ain't saying nothing. I just said your point.
My point is, when they come out, the healing has never occurred, right? So do you see this as reasons why sometimes people are more likely to commit crimes again once they get out?
I think that you have a group of individuals in society who are walking around having not addressed trauma in their life.
Right.
And they see life through the lens of that unaddressed trauma.
Yeah. Right.
And they act out through that unaddressed trauma.
Yeah.
There are certain things in your life that you may hurt yourself and you can put a Band-Aid on it. But there are other things in which you hurt yourself, you may need surgery. And if you don't get that surgery, what you're gonna do is you're gonna lash out on people based on the things that you have experienced. And so if you don't get the help, then it's inevitable that you will in some point do something that unfortunately may self-sabotage you and may wind you back out into the system.
Yeah. We gotta run.
I'm gonna put some links under this episode for people to get resources.
That's good. That'll be good. That'll be good. That'll be good.
Because this is the type of conversation we've talked about having and need to have, and will continue to have. And so, thank y'all for listening or watching us wherever you are. Again, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and on Spotify, Apple, whichever one you want to check us out for the podcast. Until next time, be blessed to be a blessing to someone else. Peace.
Okay, I hope you loved it as much as we did. Thank you for joining us for another fire show for the crew. Listen, you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any streaming platform that you're using for your podcast. Share with a friend, expand the family. Listen, we're trying to do this thing with all of you as often as we possibly can. We're looking forward to you joining us again for our next show.